Hello and welcome, Minnesota Farah. We are genuinely very happy to have you with us for our daily coverage of the NFL news. Please subscribe to our channel to support our initiative as we bring to you the latest updates from the world of NFL on a daily basis. Now let's dive deep into our news stories.
I'm your host, and I'm here to bring you all the exciting developments, injuries, signings, and more from today. Times 1. Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are facing some injury concerns. Running back James Conner has been limited in practice due to a calf injury, and offensive tackle Kelvin Beachum is dealing with a hand issue. These ailments could have an impact on their upcoming games, and fans will be watching closely. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 2. Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are coming off a win but have their own set of concerns. Running back Cordarrelle Patterson, who played a pivotal role in their victory, was a full participant in practice despite a thigh issue. However, cornerback Jeff Okudah is limited with a foot injury. The Falcons will need these key players in top shape to maintain their winning momentum. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 3. Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are also dealing with some injuries, notably among their offensive linemen. Star tight end Mark Andrews has been limited in practice due to a quad issue, while offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley, center Tyler Linderbaum, cornerback Marlon Humphrey, and safety Marcus Williams all missed practice due to various injuries. These injuries could pose challenges for the Ravens as they look to build on their winning start. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 4. Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers have made a significant signing, bringing in cornerback Sam Webb from the Raiders' practice squad. This move bolsters their defense as they aim to bounce back from a loss. However, wide receiver DJ Chark is limited in practice with a hamstring injury, and offensive tackle Taylor Moton is dealing with a biceps issue. Additionally, cornerback J.C. Horn has not practiced due to a hamstring injury. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 5. Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are managing injuries of their own, with tight end Marcedes Lewis resting and cornerback Kyler Gordon placed on injured reserve. These developments are concerning for the Bears, who are looking to bounce back from a loss. On a positive note, they've made signings in the form of cornerback Macon Clark and cornerback Greg Stroman Jr. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 6. Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are closely monitoring quarterback Joe Burrow, who is a full participant in practice despite a calf injury. Running back Chris Evans and defensive ends Joseph Ossai and Cam Sample are all limited with various ailments. Linebackers Marcus Bailey and Logan Wilson, along with safety Daxton Hill, have their own injury concerns. The Bengals will need these players at their best as they aim for success. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 7. Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are facing injury challenges as well. Wide receiver Brandon Cooks has not practiced due to a knee injury, and guard Zach Martin is limited with a groin issue. Safety Donovan Wilson is also limited with a calf injury. The Cowboys will need these players in peak condition to maintain their winning ways. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 8. Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos received good news as wide receiver Jerry Jeudy was a full participant in practice after dealing with a hamstring injury. However, tight end Greg Dulcich did not practice, and linebacker Frank Clark is expected to miss a couple of weeks with a hip injury. These developments could impact the Broncos' offensive and defensive strategies moving forward. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 9. Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are dealing with injuries to key players. Offensive tackle Taylor Decker did not practice due to an ankle injury, while cornerback Khalil Dorsey and cornerback Emmanuel Mosley both missed practice due to illness and hamstring issues, respectively. These injuries pose challenges for the Lions as they strive for success. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 10. Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers have some injury concerns of their own. Star running back Aaron Jones did not participate in practice due to a hamstring injury, and wide receivers Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson have their own injury issues. The Packers will need these players to heal quickly to maintain their strong start. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 11. Houston Texans. The Houston Texans received good news with wide receiver John Mechie III being a full participant in practice after dealing with a hamstring issue. However, tight end Dalton Schultz is limited with a thigh injury, and offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil has a knee issue. Safety Jalen Pitter and Jimmy Ward both missed practice due to injury concerns. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 12. Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts have made a practice squad signing in the form of guard Lewis Kidd. Running back Zach Moss, who's recovering from a forearm injury, was a full participant in practice, providing a boost for the team. However, guard Quentin Nelson did not practice, and center Jack Anderson has been placed on the practice squad injured list. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 13. Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are closely monitoring running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was a full participant in practice after missing a session due to illness. Tight end Travis Kelce and cornerback L'Jarius Sneed are limited with knee issues. These players' conditions will be crucial for the Chiefs' upcoming games. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 14. Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders have positive news with quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo being a full participant in practice despite an ankle issue. However, wide receiver Davante Adams and wide receiver DeAndre Carter have their own injury concerns. Defensive end Chandler Jones missed practice for personal reasons, and safety Trevon Moehrig was a full participant despite a thumb injury. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 15. Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are keeping a close eye on running back Austin Eckler, who did not participate in practice due to an ankle injury. Linebackers Joey Bosa and Eric Kendricks are both dealing with hamstring issues. These injuries could impact the Chargers' performance in the coming weeks. And there you have it, folks, a comprehensive update on the latest news and developments from around the NFL. Injuries, signings, and everything in between, this is what makes the NFL such an exhilarating league to follow. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on the NFL News Roundup.